in Wealthcare. Hello, good evening to you all. I know sometimes we have to move mountains for our families and things like that to get everybody to get this to work out, to jump on a Zoom, a webinar. It's 5 p.m. where I am. It's 8 p.m. somewhere. It's maybe, let's see, what is it in Hawaii? 3 p.m.? Do I have it right? Three?
Yeah,
No, no,
I
no,
don't know.
2 p.m., I think.
It varies between 3 hours and 2 hours. So who knows what it
Yeah.
is?
Oh, true. Yeah. Who knows, right? Daylight savings will get us every time. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to dive into this conversation now. We're so glad to have you join us. The room's filling up. And yes, this is being recorded. And we will be releasing the video and having the replay be available to you. So you'll be able to see that in your inbox, hopefully tomorrow, if I can get my act together in time. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. The first thing we're going to do is kick off the conversation with some introductions. You know the drill, you know how this works in a webinar, but truly, we'll dive in right away with why we're so excited to have you all join us today. And not for nothing, we were just joking that we should have added an extra W and should have wine in there somewhere. And so if you have a glass, cheers, please enjoy. More than welcome to do that with us here today. Okay, so if you're here, it's because you saw out there somewhere one of the emails, something on social media about the three of us kicking off a webinar called Women Wealth and Wealth, Women Wit and Wealth Care. Hello, I'm Bianca Lager. I'm the one who sent you the emails and you went to my website to register for the webinar. And I'm really, really happy and excited to be here. My good friend Kelly asked me to join her. This is her brainchild. And we'll get into the idea of why we brought, all of us together here today and get into the specifics. But I'm a leadership coach. I am somebody who has ran a successful business, sold that business, and now does consultant work full time. So I work with businesses on their growth. And generally, every time somebody has a growth issue, it is really always comes down to a team issue, a team performance. And any of you, I'm sure all of you leaders out there on the call today know that it always comes down to that. It comes down to how we're working together as a team. And so a lot of my work has to do with teamwork development, processes and systems that build high trust and high productivity. So that's me. I dabble, of course, on the side of keynote speaking. It's one of my favorite things that I do. So I host a lot of webinars and provide a decent amount of content, I would say, out there in terms of leadership advice and career development, especially for women, since I am one. I live one, and I know I'm well. So without further ado, Kelly Heinen, welcome to the webinar here today. Kelly, my dear friend, we actually went to the same college and we lived in the same town for a really long time. And she is just somebody that I trust so much and somebody that I am so happy to work with on a personal level with my own personal finances. But outside of that, she's just a cool friend and I love her dearly. I'm going to embarrass you, Kelly. I'm going to go in to a bit of your bio here and tell everybody the official story. So Kelly is a financial advisor. She has expertise in all the things. She has expertise in tax efficiency, risk management, retirement planning, and investment strategy, wealth preservation, and distribution. And I can firsthand attest to such skill sets, Kelly. So well done. She works works with clients across the country in many different industries. It specializes in working with healthcare and med tech. Especially, breadwinning women. I love to say that. It's a tongue twister, but it's a good one. And Kelly, like I said, we went to the same college. We went to UC Santa Barbara. And so she had 15 years in the healthcare field. And she worked for Arthrex. Many of you today are with the organization. Post that portion of her life, she made a pivot, went on to financial strategic careers. And she wanted to have more flexibility and build something a little bit different for her family and her young son, Hunter. We have kids the same age and we're busy, okay? So Kelly and her team work with clients in an end-to-end planning experience and driven by the client's goals and desired financial outcomes. She sees financial empowerment as a key component to her work, helps clients build confidence in their financial lives, futures, enable them to stress less and live more. I love that. It's so beautiful. Kelly, welcome. Hello.
Hi, it's great to be here. I'm so excited. I see so many familiar faces on this call, aside from Miss Fabulous Liz Lightbody. So I'm just excited to get this all together and to be a part of it.
Well, thank you for being here. And without further ado, Liz Lightbody. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Liz, so I've been so excited to meet you and get to know you just a little bit over this process of putting on this webinar. And we're just really, really grateful that you're able to make the time and really make the sincere effort to join us here today. And so thank you so much, first and foremost.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, your turn to be embarrassed. Hang in there,
Oh,
okay?
no.
Liz Lightbody, Elizabeth Lightbody. And if you connect with her on LinkedIn, please do look at Elizabeth Lightbody. We'll send her links out so that way you can really get to know her a lot better. She's a seasoned leader in the medical industry, boasting over 2 decades of invaluable experience. She graduating with distinction in environmental science from Michigan State, a place where you visit quite often. I understand you're in Michigan quite a bit.
Just came from there today.
Touche. Exactly. So she embarked on her journey that led her to the helm of Artemis Surgical, a distinguished Arthrex distributor operating across the Midwest region. As we were just discussing, it has her running around quite a bit. So thank you. After getting off an airplane or in being here, it's always a struggle. With a steadfast commitment to excellence, Elizabeth has consistently demonstrated her prowess in strategic planning, business development, and customer relations. Her unwavering dedication to improving patient outcomes and advancing medical innovation has earned her widespread respect within the industry. I think many of you here today are here because you know Liz Lightbody. Have you heard of her? And you certainly are compelled to hear a little bit about what that career story is. So we're definitely going to get into it. She was recently appointed as agency principal at Artemis Surgical. She's made history as the first female to hold this esteemed position as the company continues its mission to help surgeons treat their patients better. Okay, Liz, thank you so much. Again, we're super happy to have you here. All right, so let's dive in, everybody. The chat is active. If there is any questions that you have, by all means, add it in here. We'll try to save some time for our Q&A at the end. And if not, no worries. Don't be shy. We'll probably get all the answers to questions you even have in your head, because I'm a chatty Cathy and we were just talking about how I love to just drill down and get to know everybody's life. So let's do it. Kelly, first question, I really want to kick us off. And if you could, like I said, this was your brainchild, Women with Wealthcare. This is the phrase that you have actually trademarked. So what brings us here today? Why do you think holding this webinar is important?
So first of all, I'm super excited that so many people joined. I'm super excited to even be on a screen with all of you. But I would say one of the things that has been important to me is to be a connector. I think it's one of my superpowers, right? I think it's important to connect people selflessly. I have been fortunate enough to have been connected with a lot of different people and was connected to Liz. And I wanted, number one, I think it's important. I recognize how challenging it is being at Arthrex. I think if we're honest, there's probably 10 to 15% of the whole field force that is women. I am also in a field where they say that there's 15 to 18% now that's women. And I think if we're honest about it, it's different sometimes being a woman in a male-dominated industry. And little things like
don't mind me.
little things like connecting people about maternity leave. So I was the first female at Arthrex that was a regional manager that ever went out on maternity leave. And while people had been on maternity leave before me, they were not paid in commission. So when my maternity leave came up, I had to call Kristen and be like, they don't know how to pay me. So because it had never been done. And I think that it's important. And while I was there, somebody from an agency called me, or a distributor, right? So one of the distributors, and said, my agency doesn't have a maternity leave policy. What should I talk to them about? And so I just think the power of bringing people together is important. And I also think, I guess why I wanted to start with Liz is that there was a lot of text chains going on behind the scenes of like, oh my God, is she really the first person to do it? And I was like, is it true? And I just think it's so important because I think it opens so many doors for everybody to show that it's actually possible. And Bianca, you pointed out to me when I was talking about it that I had been fangirling her my whole career at Arthrex because she was the first female VP. And she's not. And so now there's another female VP out there. And I just think it's so important to see people doing it and making it so we know that it's possible and not that it's, I really believe in that. So
Yeah,
that's the why.
And it's a good why. I mean, that's incredible.
And nobody can tell me no now that I can't do it. So here we are.
Absolutely. We love to see that, don't we? And what an incredible and powerful story. It's like, you're at a company who's never done a maternity leave before, and you're blazing trails there on your own, Kelly. And yeah, as women, we obviously experience very significant things and very different things than our male counterparts, that are just very different. And so that's a really, really just really puts it into perspective, I think, for all of us. So just like, yeah, the kinds of challenges and things that we deal with on our high impact careers is what I always talk about. When you're having a high impact career, there's a lot that you have to balance. And I love, like, Kelly was just like, got to talk to Liz. I want to have Liz on there. And I just loved her enthusiasm for, watching a woman blaze those trails and really achieve something in their career and continue to do so. So Liz,
Yeah,
this is your time to
shine. So nice, Kelly. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's true, right? And I think it's important because I think that women can tear each other down. And I think it's important to bring each other up. Like, we're better together and we can help each other navigate things that sometimes you don't want to talk to one of your male counterparts about.
Yeah, thank you for that. You're always an amazing cheerleader. We all feel it.
Well, Liz, thank you so much. And I mean, thank you again for being here. And, we'd love to hear really, I think, from the perspective of how did you get into this? Like, how did you start your career at Arthrex? What was it that drew you to there? And I would love to hear if you could kind of walk us through the different positions that you had on your journey and kind of what that leadership journey was like, so to speak. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have to say my journey has not been intentional, and it started that way too. I fell into something that fit perfectly with what I love. And that part was luck. The rest was not luck, but that part was luck. I graduated from Michigan State, and I was picking up some belongings to move to Chicago with friends, where I figured I would just be a waitress or something to make some money while I found a real job. And my neighbor came running out of her house and grabbed me and said, my son started this business a couple of years ago. He's working 7 days a week, 100 hours. He needs help. Here's his number. You got to call him when you get there. So I did. This is in the 90s. There were not cell phones. So I called him at home, and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember you, Liz Lightbody. Why don't we do this? Why don't I take you around and you can see if this is something that you want to do? Have you gotten moved in? Are you settled? Like, what do you think about Monday?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Okay, I'll pick you up at 5 a.m. Be out in front of your condo." And we rode around I think he drove 120 miles an hour. We probably were in 15 surgeries. We drove 500 miles. He fed me 2 lifesavers the whole day. That's all I ate. One mint one and one cherry one, and dropped me off at 8:30 at night. And he said,
Oh.
do you think you want to do this? And naive me said, sure, let's give it a go. And so he said, fantastic. Well, tomorrow I got to pick you up at 4:45.
Sounds
And
about right.
yeah. And so that was it. And gosh, if I think about, I ran at that pace, where we would be at the office at 5, and I never wanted to be I wanted to be the first one there. So I would usually get there before 5 every day. And I rarely made it home before, gosh, 8 at night. And I think it was like that for maybe 8 years.
Wow. Wow. A
Yeah.
lot of, I think to run on that, really steam as it gets there is complex. But I think what you said was so interesting that like you happen to find something that you loved. And I feel like you really can't run that much and that hard unless it is something that resonates with you, the work. What did you enjoy about it the most? What do you think fit in well or right with you?
So I'm incredibly independent, and I loved the autonomy. I like to be able to pave my own path. Um, it was different back then. I actually, when you put together this WebEx, I run fast now. And so there's very few reflective moments. There's very few times when I can even like take my head up to think back on like what I did last week, let alone, 20 years ago. So I have been thinking a lot about this, and gosh, like in 1998, when you would go into the OR, I remember trying to target doctors at one of my hospitals, and the surgeon lounge was attached to the men's locker room. So
Totally.
like if I went in there, there would be like guys in their underwear. And they were there with all of my competition, like sitting around watching news, talking about their surgeries. And I remember one day, I just remember thinking, you know what? I don't care if they're in their underwear. I'm going in there. I'm going to go sit next to my doctor and we're going to talk about our case. Um, and I kind of took that approach always. And I there was a lot that I loved about it. I liked being relied on. I figured out how to win and beat all of the men, and I got addicted to that win. And so I I think I kind of figured out my path early on within the first year or two, and started feeling wins. And I I kind of took pride on, taking all those D1 football players and pushing them aside. And the doctor would also look past them too, because they wanted me.
What do you think set you apart? Like the tenacity and did it help basically that you were female and so it kind of got people's attention? At least it's like there's all these other, dudes coming in and then maybe you're a breath of fresh air. Do you think it gave you an advantage?
I don't know if it was a breath of fresh air. Yes, it certainly helped. Like, would they
Mhm.
meet with me?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, had other, women tried, and maybe they would last for half of a second, because when
Mm,
they maybe got the appointment, they weren't prepared.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's like a lot of secret sauce here. I think it really
Yeah.
was, I was determined to be the best, and my only method for survival was I had to be not even as good as that. I had to be better than all of my competition. So I had to be over prepared.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there wasn't really any like big secret to it. I immediately attracted to the clinical pieces. I was obsessed. I mean, I would, read scientific journal articles when I would get home at night and watch more videos. And I kind of got obsessed with being like a clinical expert.
Well, I think that's exactly the secret sauce there is you're really highlighting and talking about your dedication and your absolute complete and preparation is something that I talk about quite a bit in my leadership skills development course. And it's not to be overlooked. I think it probably came off really natural to you, but that amount of commitment and dedication is really a very necessary step in goal achievement and goal attainment. And even if you didn't have a specific goal in mind, I mean, it's absolutely admirable. The tenacity that you had and still have to today. So I'm curious, during that time you're grinding, obviously it sounds like a whole lot. When was the first time when you were offered a leadership role, or how did that progress? Like, what did that look like in terms of leadership roles? And could you walk us through, those first kind of early roles and then to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Kelly knows this, and if there's any other women on here that are, work for an agency or a, medical device company, it's not corporate America, so it's not like, year one, you're associate, and year two, you get a promotion to senior associate, and in year three, it's not about necessarily titles and promotions. And I actually, that's also what I loved about the job. I wasn't about titles. I just wanted to work and be good at what I was doing. And so um, I think it was pretty quick. I mean, maybe a year or a year and a half in, um, I had proved that I knew enough that I was given my own territory. Um, and from there on, really, we were independent contractors back then. And so again, I had kind of the autonomy to do my own thing, and I ended up, hiring and building a team underneath me. Um, and it kind of went from there. And I mean, for the majority of my career, I was a salesperson. I mean, that wasn't, so again, it's not corporate America. If your advancement is that you're good at your job and you earn more money.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's sales in
Right.
a lot of ways for in a lot of different industries is I mean, and as president of this division and of this agency, that's still your job, right? That
Yeah.
very much. But as your career does grow and mature, you suddenly do have the team that you are now managing. And so there are changes that come with that. There are outside of executing on the deals, there's changes that you actually naturally have to start doing. So I'm curious as if there was ever a moment where you felt a mindset shift, or where you felt like, oh, I'm doing less of this stuff, or I have actually become, this is how my career has evolved. Was there ever a moment where you felt a significant mindset shift in terms of as you advanced in leadership?
I think, I don't know that there was ever a distinct moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I left this industry for a couple years. I was recruited by one of my customers actually to do business development for a surgery center management company. And we were forming a joint venture with one of the local health systems. And so after, I don't know, 16 years of being a rep, I left. And I took a leap and I tried something new. And I think that, if I really think back, that is probably what changed everything for me. I think I learned how to be a true professional, right? I was working for a big corporation. Um, I I was surrounded by really smart people, a lot of great leaders. Um, I was on a team of five. I think I was the only one that didn't have an MBA from Harvard.
Oh,
So it was great. I loved it. I was definitely like the dumbest person in my group, and it was amazing because I was a sponge. And so that changed. And what also changed though is when I left, I missed Arthrex, and I missed the grind, and I missed the surgeons. I missed the energy. And I think if I hadn't left, I wouldn't have realized what I really love. And so um, that was definitely a big moment. And at that time, I also had two kids. And so I don't know that there was ever one moment where there was an intentional mindset shift, but you just, you get mature and you start looking outside of yourself, and, you know, becoming less of a lone wolf and somebody that really enjoys team, right? And enjoys building people up around you. And I certainly find, far more gratification in that now than, being out on my own, trying to, knock off striker reps. So yeah, there was never any like intentional moment where, yeah, like, I'm going to work on this, tomorrow because I want to be this kind of leader. It was all kind of organic.
Love it. You're muted, Bianca.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute myself. I'm like, where's my mouse?
Where did it go?
You will hear my 5 and 2-year-old maybe playing in the background. Hopefully Zoom mellows that out. But
Zoom
That's all right.
It's
We
fine.
can't
We're
hear
all
them.
humans.
No, I think that is so important, and that's so your humbleness is appreciated, Liz. But I really think it's remarkable how you did really make a mindset shift. Maybe it was slowly and not necessarily overnight. They rarely are, but you go from really talking about your competitive streak and you're really pushing to changing to developing other people, and being committed to now the development of not just accomplishing and executing on the deals, but now helping these other folks, come also be a part of that and be able to execute and have the same dedication. And I think that that's significant, especially in this male dominated industry, where I'm sure a lot of those people that you were committed to their growth were males or had other kinds of dynamics that were challenging. So I think we'd love to hear like what in terms of developing others and really getting into becoming an executive. You're talking about, yeah, you said they're your team of 5, everybody has a Harvard MBA except for you. That is an intimidating room to be in. But outside of that, also, it is a very different room to be in terms of executive strategy and the way that you approach your communication. So all the things, right? Your leadership with other people, your counterparts. What were the big challenges for you?
Oh
What are
gosh.
the big challenges for you?
Yeah. I mean, I there's constant challenges. I mean, it's daily. And I like the challenges. I said when I left, I missed this because I missed I want to be challenged every day. I want to surround myself with people, my workmates. I want them to challenge me too. So I mean, gosh, it would be impossible to pick out, one, in particular thing. Bianca, I can't pick out one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Was there any specific time in your career where you felt frustrated or you felt like there was something that even if the frustration didn't stick in it? I mean, you sound like an incredibly tenacious person. I share a lot of these same qualities because when something's challenges to me, I hardly even click it as a challenge, and it gives me determination. So were there anything was there anything where you felt like, oh, this is really tough, or did it really feel like an organic progression of skills that you're just executing on and you showed up every day and you just executed on it? What was it like?
I think the second part of what you just described is more like it. So again, when you're in a field where challenges just come at you all the time, I don't think nothing really stands out, right? And so you become tough. And I honestly, what we deal with in the OR and managing, a 150-person team, and there's a lot that comes at you all the time. I almost feel like you become numb to the challenges, right? You just figure out a way to get it done.
Right.
I have a question.
And hope that you're making the right decision.
Sure.
I have a question. Can you talk about, because your kids are older than mine.
Yeah.
Like, how have you balanced or not balanced or dealt with the mom guilt of like working a lot and now traveling I would say like even from a leadership standpoint, when you're giving so much to other people and now you have to also give to your family. Like, I think that that's a reality that a lot of us face.
Yeah. I mean, I think the unfortunate part about it is probably who suffers the most is the husband.
Yeah.
Because you do have kid guilt. And so when you're home, all of your attention goes to your kids, right? And so that That is a real thing. But no, I mean, I tell other women that I work with, and they don't have to feel bad about saying it, because for me, I mean, I, excuse, what I'm about to say, but you're gonna suck at something at all times, right? So if I'm feeling great at work, I'm being a really bad mom, I feel like. And if I'm being a great mom, I feel like I'm really failing at work. So I don't feel like I can do it all. And I've just kind of accepted the fact that like sometimes I'm just not going to be good at one or the other.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt a lot of mom guilt when they were younger. That was much harder than it is now. Now that they're older and they understand, what it takes to be successful, I'm not ashamed to share my struggle, right? I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed to like let them see me work hard. I'm fine with it,
Yeah.
especially my daughter. And so I don't feel as much guilt now as I did before.
Yeah. I think it's so important because I think that honestly, when I was in the field, the only reason that I am a mom is because that Kristen and Chelsea Day told me, like, you'll be fine. You
Yeah.
figure it out. You can totally do it. But like, that's where I think that this is so important, is because if I didn't have them who were moms and working moms telling me, like, it'll be fine. You'll figure it out. You can travel, you don't travel. Like, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, look, I'm glad that I have women on my team. They have kids, right? And
Yeah.
so we support that. I love it. We talk about it. I hopefully they can, see that I made it through,
Yeah.
I'm still standing.
Yeah,
My kids are
totally.
okay, you know. Um, so it can be done. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It is not easy. It is not an easy path, especially early on. Oh boy. Like if I think through when I had my first, I mean, I was in the thick of it and it was really hard, especially as a rep, because your life is just so unpredictable. But the reality is you can do it. So you
Yeah.
don't have to sacrifice, family, over work. You can do it.
I think Christina's calling in from the trauma facility in Vegas. So and she's in the thick of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy.
No, no, it's not. I was speaking with a colleague the other day, and she, maybe you guys, some people have heard about this phrase, but she said, uh, as a working mom, and especially if you have a high-powered career, there's always somebody you're disappointing. And that's just the way it goes. And a lot of times it can be yourself, it could be your children, it is, there's always, like you said, there's always something that you're giving and taking from. And that's the reality. The reality, is very much that, you have to just show up and wake up and go through it every single day. And Liz, it sounds like that's a lot of what you're saying is kind of like, hey, there wasn't like anything that I did that was kind of nuts here. I just woke up and I did what was in front of me every single day.
That's true. And I hyper focus. My it can drive my husband and my family crazy because I have total ADD. But when one of the characteristics of ADD is when you're focused in, you're like a laser. And so when I am focused in on a customer or work, I mean, it's almost like there's nothing going on around me. And so I think that's actually kind of helped. But you're right. So I'm looking at your question on the screen here, the most challenging part of leadership. I do feel like it's for me, I feel like I'm trying to keep everybody fulfilled and satisfied. And when you have a big team, it's hard to keep on top of all of it. And I don't want to disappoint anybody. I
Yeah.
know they're working so hard because I know their life, right? They are what drives me to work harder because I don't want to let them down.
I think that is exactly what separates great leaders from ones that really don't get to that next executive level is that commitment to the growth of others. And I'm sure your team picks up on it, just by the response of how many people wanted to show up and hear a little bit about you today. I think that is clear and evident. So, thank you for giving us some light of the realities of what that is like. And on that topic, I mean, one of the things that I know, Kelly, you wanted to talk about, and we brought it up already a little bit, is like, what does that look like? I mean, for people on the call and stuff, like, yes, it's tough, but what kind of support systems are important for women with high impact careers? Like that's the question on the screen, right? And I think that like we're thinking about it in terms of, and Kelly, you're coming from like a financial perspective, right? Is like, of course, like money is incredibly important, and how, when you are advancing in your career, your income changes. Things in your life and your lifestyle start changing. And, from, I would say, childcare to healthcare to, help within your household, like what are the things that you think have helped enable you to be a mother and to also have such an esteemed career as you do, Liz?
Oh, having an amazing husband who
Yeah.
has job flexibility, right?
Mhm.
So he can he can pick up the slack. But I don't know. I mean, if I'm really honest about it, yes, he picks up the slack and he's fabulous. He still doesn't do the mom stuff though. So, um,
Yep.
there's still it's still gonna there's a lot of it that still falls on the mom. It's just kind of expected, right? Like when we get a message home from the teacher, it doesn't go to him, it goes to me. And then I respond to the teacher and I include him in. I said, I'm including my husband, Paul, I'm traveling today. He should, he's with the kids. But yeah, we're constantly um, you know, challenged with communication around school or social events or whatever, where everything always, comes here. But he's great. I mean, I don't think that I could live the lifestyle that I do without having a very supportive husband.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
would be hard,
I,
harder.
yeah, totally. I mean, and but to your point, heavy is the crown, of the mom, I always say, and you're the CEO at home, and a lot of times when your kids are in childhood, that's the way it is that mom's mom. How old are your children right now, Liz? By the way.
They're 11 and 13.
Yeah, I mean, not young, but young kids still. I mean, they're kids, you
Yeah,
know?
they're kids. They're busy. Yeah, they keep me
Yeah.
super busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love the
Yeah.
activity age.
Right, right.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah. And I mean, what does that look like for you and your family specifically? I mean, you don't have to tell us all your family secrets, but like, do you have family nearby? Do you, rely on childcare providers? Like what kind of delegation really do you run in both your personal and your professional life to kind of enable the high impact, amount of work that you're able to do?
Well, I mean, no, we don't, both my husband and I are not from Chicago, so we do not have family here, um,
Mhm.
which definitely has made it harder. I mean, look, we're fortunate in that we could afford a nanny, and that was how we got by, right? Because I had no flexibility in where I needed to be, and I still don't. So we hung on to that for probably way too long. But I mean, full honesty, my kids are independent and they don't have a choice. So they come home from school by themselves, they get their work done. I'll leave them a note or a text or whatever, soccer carpool is at this time, get your stuff ready, go get a snack, make sure you're looking out the window so you're not late. So they are certainly more independent than their friends in terms of what they need to get done on their own. And I'm also fine with that, by the way. I don't
Yeah.
feel bad
Yeah.
about that.
That's remarkable, I think. I think
Yeah.
that like, that's exactly the kind of reality of what that looks like of what you want out of life and how that works. You know what I mean? And functions well. And really, I mean, a remarkable thing to be able to put confidence in your kids. Like, no, you can do it. You
Well,
got it.
well, I mean, they don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
So it would be one thing if I said, "Oh, I'll pick you up at school," or do you want to like ride your bike home and then get your stuff ready? They
Yeah.
would of
Yeah.
course
Yeah.
not choose that, but
Yeah.
it's not an option, and they're
Yeah.
capable.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. They're capable. I love to hear that. I love it. Kelly, what are your thoughts here? What are your thoughts about any of this, and what are your own experiences? I mean, I want to shift a little bit to you as well and talk about your experience at Arthrex, your experience. I mean, you told us a little bit about maternity leave, but what are your thoughts here on subjects like this?
Well, so I guess it's interesting because I have definitely been around people that have another half and then people that don't, right? And I am definitely fortunate enough to have a husband that's been very supportive as I have changed my life and my career. And I guess a couple of things that resonated that you said, Liz, that I just wanted to touch on. Like, I think that that's why I love so much of what I'm doing now is because I still am in the Arthrex culture, so to speak. My husband still works there. I get to meet with people like yourself. And so I'm still like immersed, I think more immersed than I ever have been in my whole career. Um, but I think it definitely like it's just learning. And I think the biggest thing that I have learned in the last like 3 years of when to ask for help. And that was something that I think was really, really challenging for me. But when you switch careers and you don't know anything that you're doing anymore, you're like, okay, well, I have to align myself with the best of the best really quickly, or else I'm going to fail. And so and it's not any different, right? It's like no matter where you are, if you surround yourself with the top people and the right group of people, you will succeed. And if you are around people that are squandering and complaining and doing different things, like you're going to do a lot of that. And so I I think that that's one thing that I think is important. But also with that, learning where to ask for help, also learning when to be vulnerable and transparent and saying when you don't know what you're doing. Right. And I think that when I was at Arthrex, to your point, you have to know more as a woman than most of your male counterparts. I remember walking into an OR for an ACL surgery with a flip cutter for the first time. One of the guys I was with had no idea how to use it. And the surgeon totally gave him a pass. And I was like, if that was me, you would kick me out of the OR. Like,
Yeah.
and so I think I learned how to say, you know what, I'm not sure, but I know the person that does. And like being quickly able to identify those people, I think is really, really, really important. And so, there's so many things. And like you talking about, like, my kids are capable. I think that that's what some of this, right? You're right. They are. There's some of me that wants to be the mom that takes care of them. But there's also the other part of me as a leader that says, you can do this. It may take you a minute to figure it out, or go phone a friend and ask them what you should know. Right. And so there's so much of that involved in everything that we do.
Well said. I mean, gosh, that is such a powerful quote, and I'm literally gonna steal some of these quotes and share them on social media.
Oh, I'm taking notes.
I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit, Kelly.
Hey, steal shamelessly, and then share with others.
Yes. No, I mean, really, it is that I love that visual too of, watching somebody who's not a female, somebody who's a male and making a mistake, and you'd never be able to get away with that.
Oh my gosh. I remember and I think most of the Arthrex people appreciate this. A doc asked me like what size was the drill bit, and it didn't, like, Arthrex did not print what size it was. It was like the hard bone drill bit. And I was like, he like was so pissed. And so like the next, like, I was like, hold on. I'm like, it's a 1.972. Like, it's for hard bone, okay? Like, get over it. But he would never have challenged anybody else.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's a universal theme, I think, no matter what industry or type of environment that you're in. Sometimes you do get kind of some of those extra push just to prove your worth. Yeah, that's incredible. And I love what you said about having the best of the best around you. I think that is true. And whether it kind of is just a natural affinity for having good judgment and knowing that it's like, hey, if we're going to be running at a high speed here and having high impact career, then we need to all step it up, our children included, and be able to run at full steam. So, I mean, as we look at closing the hour out, and by the way, everybody on the call, thank you for staying with us and for being here. We'd love to hear any questions that you have. Ooh, I have some chats in here. Okay, we'll get to them. I want to get, of course, my question first. But any kind of general advice from either one of you. Liz, of course, we'd love to hear from you on this, but I know that you kind of, I love that you talked about that, like, extreme focus and execution. Is that your advice to people? And like, let's say there's women on this call here or watch this replay later that are really thinking about like, I want to be the next Liz Lightbody. What is your advice to them?
Oh gosh. I mean, again, I don't think there's any secret. I mean, if you're willing to put in the work, right? There's very few people, I think, in this world that are willing to work from 5 until 8:30 p.m. for many, many years of their life to create success. So, I don't know that there was any big secret other than the fact that you need the focus, you need to love it, right? Nobody's going to work that hard doing something they don't love. And so part of me, I keep saying it, things kind of happen, organically when you put in that kind of effort and you love what you do. So it's, if somebody on this Zoom truly feels that love, I mean, I feel like it's going to happen organically for them. It's, you got to be better than everybody else around you.
I love that. I love that as a motivation too. Since you do have to have a significant amount of motivation to sit, like you say, be so driven and be, dedicated like that, the amount of hours. And
I think, another thing that, the point to kind of speak to what Kelly was saying is, I do think throughout my years at Arthrex, one thing that I would do that I don't see a lot of younger people doing is I'm on the phone all day. There's very few moments during the day when I'm not talking to somebody. I'm constantly reaching out to get information. I pick up the phone and I talked to 10 people at Arthrex today because I want to learn this and I want to find out that, versus kind of lobbing out a random text or email or whatever. You create more personal connections that way, and you find that people want to help you more. And so I wouldn't hesitate to, pick up the phone and use whatever resources are around you to make personal connections.
That's a brilliant tip. I mean, I think that that's so important, and talking to people, speaking on the phone and actually connecting in that way. And rather than, doing it in a less personal way, really, really, really. And that's a really good visual too of like what your day-to-day life is like, which I'm glad you touched on. It's like, I'm on the phone all day long. I'm constantly talking to people. And that's what it takes, it grows your network as well, so to speak, right? It's like, hey, you're connected with that person now. You'll be able to get more information later. I also just want to point out, Liz, I think you're absolute just curiosity towards getting the right information, being informed, and being prepared, like you kind of touched on earlier. I think that that's a really highlight of our conversation today. Kelly, anything else or any other kind of insights in that vein? And I'm gonna go to turn to the chat here because we have some compliments and some good questions that I want to get to.
So I guess one last piece that I would add is that typically when we're resistant to something or change, it really stems from fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you recognize that internally, like that it is really fear, like most growth comes on the other side of fear. Mm-hmm. And so like everything that I've ever been afraid of was because I had fear of failure or fear of shame or fear of something, picking up the phone, because what are they going to think?
Yeah.
Most of us are judging ourselves more than others are judging us. And so I think if we understand that, then we can rationalize it enough logically to move beyond it. So and two, I think the other thing that I would have realized is that most women are going to wait for someone to pat them on the back to be a leader, as opposed to vocalizing that you want to be a leader and what do you need to do in order to be a part of it, and asking for that piece. So that's one thing that I've learned, because I was definitely that person. And there's not very many people that saying, I identify you as a leader. And if that is the culture, then amazing. But it's not everywhere. And so I think it has to start with us and getting over that fear of asking and then learning.
The sound bites, Kelly, truly, honestly, really, I really love how you're giving us wisdom nuggets. I love it. I mean, all I
I've
think
had a lot of
about
coaching in the last.
yeah. Love to see it. No, really, no, truly though, all jokes aside, I mean, that's extremely powerful advice. It's extremely powerful things to think about in terms of scenarios that are in. And it's absolutely true. You are the CEO of your career. You are the CEO of your approaches. And I speak as a former CEO, so I think about that a lot. But I think about how that's what it is, right? I made that comparison in motherhood, but it's to your career as well. And you have to be a C-suite of one, and you have to balance, all the different areas. And nobody else is going to do that for you. Nobody is going to tell you, hey, you're great. Let's put you on a pedestal. You have to get there yourself. So let's, first of all, just put our beautiful pictures up here and just show you guys where you can connect with us. If you do have any questions, if we don't get to any today, blow us up, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what your questions are.
Let us know if we should do some more of these.
Yes, very
Great
much
deal.
so. Yes, very much so. So please do. Into the chat, Melina says, I remember you, Liz, you were so real and you made it look so easy. So love it. I love to hear that.
I love her.
Emily,
Love her.
what's that?
We love Melina.
I love her.
Good. The love. Emily says, any tips to instill that independence? I think we are talking about parenthood there, Liz. Like, I think you kind of said, like, they don't have a choice, right? Like, it is what it is in terms of that's the way we run this household.
I mean, look, a lot of this starts when you're young. I'm not the way that I am, because I've done something intentional. I came out of the womb this way, and my mom was a single mom. My dad died when I was young, and it was just the two of us. And so she was very independent and very ego feeding of me when I was young. She still is. Like, I walk in the door and she's like, "Oh my gosh, how are you so, smart, and you're so big," like, just constantly, like, it's ridiculous, right? And so I do the same thing to my daughter every day. I'm like, do you know how, every second I can, talk to her, I'm constantly feeding her ego because I think it helps,
Yeah.
And you were saying, Kelly, it's fearful, it's fear, and that's why you don't pick up the phone. You're like, oh, they're not going to want to talk to me, or I don't want to do this because I'm going to bother them or something like that. I think, again, I think it probably starts young, right? Where it's the fear, overcoming the fear.
Yeah.
Getting comfortable taking up space, right?
Yes.
And truly, really, and being like, no, you can do it. Like, look at you, you're wonderful. Those affirmations,
Right.
wow.
Sure.
Truly, I mean, that's what it's doing. The internet has called it things now, but that's really what it is.
Right.
That's fabulous. I really love that tidbit, and I love that just as a motivation. And I like to instill that a lot in my own motherhood approach, for sure. I have an autistic son, and his confidence is definitely something I'm always conscious of, about saying, like, you are smart and great, and the way you approach things and what you want to do is okay, and not only that, but yeah, my dad used to look at me with those same eyes, like, who is this amazing person that came in? And there's no feeling like that in the world when somebody just thinks you're awesome. Yeah. You're awesome. Okay, great. Well, loved that so much. Christina, what are non-negotiables when it comes to setting aside travel/work function for your family? How do you prioritize your family over work? Because it's easy to prioritize work over family in your position.
That for me?
I think so. Either way, I mean, I could take this one too, but go for it.
Like I said, I'm not always great at everything. And so my family has definitely sacrificed also. You can't do it all. I have canceled family events. I have missed family events. When I'm home and I'm present, I do my best to be home and present. And I try to make it up. If I miss something important, then I'll try to like take the next morning and have breakfast and then, drop one of my kids off late for school or whatever. So,
Right.
um, yeah, it's not perfect.
No, of course not. But I think that that kind of balance piece is exactly what it takes, right?
To some extent. I mean, full disclosure, it's not great balance. I mean, that it's more than I've had in the past, but again, I'm running a big company and it is what it is.
100%. I mean, and I don't, yeah, balance is a ever elusive dragon that
Yeah,
of
sure.
the tail we're
Right.
never catching, right?
Right.
But to make the effort and be like, yeah, hey, listen, I'll have a late breakfast with you tomorrow. It's the best I can do. That's the best that we can do sometimes. And I think that's the advice really, and that's the not the advice, but just the reality actually of how to do that, especially when it comes to travel. And you had mentioned that so much of it is sort of out of your control. I mean, there's client meetings, there's things that you need to do, you need to go, I'm sure, talk with your team in different areas. So it just is required, essentially.
It is
Required.
required. I mean, my family's familiar with how it goes and they're accepting of it. And again, like I said, my husband's been with me since, my early rep days. And so he gets the dynamic.
Yes. Very, very important. Well, thank you. And I really, really appreciate you talking about your family life and your so much. And it is really just a part of our realities as moms, but as women as well in general. It's really helpful, I think, for a lot of people. Another question we have from Michelle: what are some qualities in employees you look for when building, hiring a successful team? I love this question. Liz.
Me?
Yeah.
Um, oh
But
gosh.
Kelly, I'd love to hear your thoughts here too.
Um, I mean, I look for the same kind of grit and determination.
Mhm.
And I, I, we have a very, I love the culture, at Artemis. It's definitely a work hard, but it is very much play hard. I think like one non-negotiable for me is like, if you lack a sense of humor, then you're not going to fit in and this is not going to be fun. Um, I really do I enjoy the people that are around me. We have a blast together. We have a great sense of humor. Nobody takes um, themselves too seriously. And so um, again, it's the grit, it's the determination. I look for somebody that can stay calm under pressure. Um, I, there's a lot of like uniqueness to, the rep quality that you need to be successful. This is maybe good or bad for whoever's looking to get into the profession, but you need to be smart. You're selling to a customer that's, been in school for a lot of years and is very bright, right? And if you're going to walk into an OR and advise on how to do their surgery, you need to have a good head on your shoulders.
Yes, yes. Wow. Yeah, completely. I mean, that's again another painting a picture of just like, phew, that's a big confidence amount of confidence that you need to have to walk into that room and talk to surgeons who are like, listen, I know what I'm doing, for sure. Kelly, what else you think? Or what about you? What about you in building your own team or any advice that you see out there for aspiring leaders or people that want to grow their career?
I would just say, like, I think it's recognizing what you love and what you find joy
Mhm.
from, what you derive joy from, and then hiring for all the things you hate. Because somebody else's joy may come from a different skill set. I will say that Kelly Boda, who's on this call right now, has been the like yin to my yang. And I'm so fortunate because things that I am terrible at, she is excellent at. And I think that having a group that inspires you to push yourself to do better things is really important. And so if I get better, she gets better too. And always seeing, I think it's been seeing a bigger vision that I could ever seen for myself. Right. And like, because we always think small. And if we want to think big, somebody else has to help us to think big. And so this woman over there walked up to me and she goes, so when are we getting to forum? And I was like, oh my God, I had never even like that had never crossed my mind. And so I think it's just those people that you surround yourself with that see things. And then we all get better together. So I don't know.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, I know we're at the top of the hour here and it's been such a great conversation. I appreciate both of you guys opening up and I think the closing thought for me and one of the big takeaways is I think what you're both describing in terms of like, listen, like, you know, I think you said it earlier, Kelly, is having great people around you. And Liz, you know, you have a sense of humor, you're out of here, dude. Like, we're gonna spend a lot of time together and like
Totally.
if we're not able to like laugh and bring some levity into this and not, you know, we're doing serious things, but so we need to be able to be humans together to some degree, right? I think I've seen time and time again creates that kind of high trust that leads to high performance. Because if we're able to smile together, if we're able to talk and communicate well and get along, we'll work hard for each other. We'll show up for each other and each other's back. And there's nothing better than having a boss that has your back. There's nothing better than being a boss that has everyone's back on your team. So thank you, you fearless leaders, Liz and Kelly. What a pleasure. If I had like a sound, you know, like fake sound coming on, I'd give you the round of applause. Really appreciated your guys' insight. Liz, again, thank you so, so much. You were so generous, not only with your time. I know you travel day. Again, we're taking time from your kids. We're taking time from your things, even just your skincare routine. Like we all need stuff.
I know. I'm like skincare, wrinkles.
Seriously, right? There's
Like I need all the
always
things.
something. You don't wash your face well, you're not doing something right, you know? So that's the way it goes. So everybody, okay, officially Women Wit, Wealthcare, and Wine. If you were having a glass
For
with
next
us
time.
here. Yes, for next time. Thank you all so much. Kelly, thank you for creating this out of your brain. Everybody, you'll see in your email a replay of this. Please do reach out to us if you have any questions. We'd love to connect. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
too.
you
Thank you
both.
guys.
So great to see you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.